Hey guys, welcome back to another video for the rotator cuff repair series. For the last video, this is going to cover months 4 to 6, and this will be phase 7. The goal in this last phase is similar to the previous one, which is maximize and optimize your range of motion, increase strength as much as possible, increase the functional use of your shoulder, and return to sport or return to any strenuous activity that you are intending to return to. For range of motion and mobility of the shoulder, please refer to the exercise set from phase 5 because that will include stretching and mobilizing the shoulder in all directions that you will need. The final set of exercises in this phase is going to be challenging the shoulder in different positions, all focusing on strengthening. So for now, we're going to go into the rest of the exercises for this last phase. So the first one is working on your shoulder internal-external rotation in the 90-90 position. This is the position where the shoulder is most mobile, also the position where it's most vulnerable. So you want to strengthen that area in that challenged position. So you take a band like this, hook it up to anything you can hook it up. You could take a band, tie a knot, and then throw it behind the door, or if you have something to tie it to. So the first one is external or internal rotation. We'll start with internal rotation first. So you bring a band out, get your arm out parallel to the ground, elbow bent to about 90 degrees. So there's tension there, and essentially all you're doing is turning inward, keeping this angle straight and turning the shoulder into internal rotation. And then the resistance is pulling you into external rotation. So you're strengthening all the muscles that you're turning into, which then are your internal rotators and part of your rotator cuff. To work on your external rotators, which is also part of your rotator cuff, you want to reverse the pattern for resistance. So instead of, at first we were resisting this way, and now we're going to resist this way. So you hold the band out here, same position, but then you're going into external rotation now. So usually when I have people do this, it's 2 sets of 15. Banded wall walks is the next exercise. So all you need is a band that's tied up in a loop like this. You wrap it around your wrists, and you start with the wall. Make sure your entire forearm is straight this way. You don't want it really angled this way. So what you're trying to do is you want to go into an external rotation. So meaning you want to push out this way onto the band, keeping both forearms straight. Start with tension on the band, and then you're just maintaining tension and walking upwards. As you're doing that, you want to maintain tension on the band. Every time you go up and down, that's considered 1 lap. And I usually have people go up and down about 10 times. This is a pretty challenging exercise. So when you do this, just make sure the band is of appropriate tension for you. The ability to fully weight bear on the shoulder is pretty important, mainly because the joint needs to know where it is in space. Once it does know that, then the muscles in itself can engage and activate to help stabilize the joint. So one exercise that's really nice to do that, and it's a progressed version of the previous shoulder taps, is a quadruped shoulder tap. So all you're trying to do is you get on all fours, and then you float the knees here. You apply the majority of the pressure on your shoulders by shifting your weight forward a little bit. If it's too hard, you can shift your weight back, just depending on what you can tolerate. The exercise is just alternating shoulder taps. So there's going to be a small moment in time where the majority of your weight is going to be on that right shoulder, assuming that's the right side that we had surgery on. So we're just trying to work that side to support your body weight. When I have people do this, I usually have them go 10 to 20 times back and forth, or I have them do it for time, depending on what we're trying to build it back up to. Another exercise that's really good for proprioceptive input of the shoulder is a kettlebell arm bar. This is a nice exercise to help facilitate weight bearing in the shoulder if you're not ready for the full quadruped shoulder tap because of the body weight. This is another nice way to kind of progress into it. So what you do with this exercise is you grab a kettlebell or a dumbbell, depending what you have. Kettlebell is better because you can hold it in the bottoms up position, which then forces the shoulder to balance the weight. So what you do is you grab the kettlebell, we're using the right arm. You start with the kettlebell in the bottoms up position like this, and then you punch it up, okay? Once you punch it up, you wanna bend this knee, and then you row in the opposite direction. As you roll in the opposite direction, oh, the weight's in the way. You roll in the opposite direction, and you hold and balance the weight up. So because the kettlebell is in the bottoms up position, it's going to wiggle. And as it wiggles, it forces your shoulder to stabilize it, which then provides proprioceptive input. So the shoulder knows where it is in space. When I have my patients do this, I usually have them hold it for 30 to 45 seconds, maybe even up to a minute, depending on what they can tolerate. And I have them do this 3 to 4 times. Once you're done with the set, to unload the kettlebell, you roll back onto your back slowly, and then take your other hand and grab it so you can unload the weight safely, and then roll to your right side so you can just get the weight off of you. Throughout this phase of the process, we've likely been doing a lot of prone T's and prone Y's and prone I's. So near the end of the rehab process, I typically combine all those 3 exercises into one, and I just call it prone snow angels. So essentially what that looks like is it's a combination of prone I's, prone T's, and prone Y's all in one motion. So what you do is you start laying flat on your stomach, and the palms are facing down, and you bring that up. Remember to set the shoulder blade, like what I talked about in the previous phases. Set the shoulder blade, bring it up, and from there go into a prone T with the thumb pointing up. From there go into a prone Y with the thumb pointing up, and then you come back down into a prone T, and then you go back down into a prone I, and then that would be 1. And I typically, there's no hold to this. I have my people do this 2 sets of 15, going up and then going down, not having the shoulder touch the table at all. And then once you feel pretty good about this, in terms of if it gets easier, then you can start with a 1 or 2 pound weight. Doing this with a 3 pound weight is pretty hard. Facepulls is the last exercise that helps with strengthening the muscles of your back and your shoulder. It works on the external rotators of both sides, so it's very convenient. It also works on the muscles in the mid-back to help retract the shoulder, which then maintains your posture in a good position. So essentially in this position, what you want to do is you want to start with a band like this, tied to something tight. You're kind of in a stagger stance, so semi-lunge position, and you're pulling this up towards you. So if you kind of remember, it's almost like the shoulder external rotation on the one side, except with this, now you're doing it on both sides with less rotational component. So when you do this, you want to make sure you bring this up and back. So you really want to shoot for this motion. And if you're doing it right, you should feel the muscles in your back engage and light up. So you should feel tension there. You can hold it there for a little bit. And 2 sets of 15 is typically what I have my folks do with this. So a lot of times what I see in the clinic is people end up doing, they try to do the motion, but they end up doing this. That's not the same thing as opening wide. You almost want to create a W with both your arms. While we are approaching the end of the phase of rehab, my patients are usually doing a combination of exercises from phase 5 to phase 7, depending on what they need. So for you specifically, because this is a one-way channel, I don't really know what's going on with you. You can almost program design this yourself, because the exercises will tell you what you need to do in terms of difficulty level. So if the exercises are hard, that's likely an exercise that you need to do. So you can kind of pick and choose from phase 5 to 7, because those are all the higher advanced level things. You can go ahead and kind of create a little bit of your own program to be able to facilitate your own deficits. This is all the exercises for this last phase of rehab. This is the phase and the timeline where I start thinking about discharge planning for my patients and create a plan for them to get back to whatever they're trying to do. If they're trying to return to sport, then depending on the sport, I program design something so they can go back to that. If they're going back to a job that's very laborious in activity or with a high physical demand level, such as construction or something like that, then I create another program that helps them get back to that. Usually that involves lifting. If they are just returning back to regular life, then these exercises should be enough to sustain them. And from there on out, I discharge them, and if they have any questions, they can reach back out to me. But in terms of this video and this series, this is complete. Thank you so much for sticking with me until the very end here. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.